So following a recent Koch-funded study that found that Medicare for All would save about $2 trillion in healthcare costs over the next 10 years, there was a different survey of the American people that found something very, very interesting. Now, according to The Intercept, with another great report, in July, the Marketing and Communications Group, In Pursuit of, launched by the Koch brothers back in 2017, decided to conduct a survey of Americans on a range of different issues. Now, some of these issues include taxation, the government picking winners and losers. Basically, it's framed in a very libertarian, conservative way, right? So they ask a lot of vague questions and things like that on the role of government, etc. Now, within that framing, they found some unexpected results. Now, the poll was written up by Real Clear Politics, by the way. Now, they spun the results as favorable to libertarian principles. For instance, it found that 66% of Americans would find, those are the good results. So some of the other results, of course, is like, people favor lower taxation, etc., and all these different things, right? Now, the things that are unexpected is when it comes to progressive priorities. For instance, the poll found that 66% of Americans would find government-paid college tuition as very effective or somewhat effective solution to the issue of social barriers. Now, more than half of those lined up on the very effective side. 66% of Americans polled in this Libertarian Koch brothers poll with very leading questions, right? And very vague policy proposals framed around libertarian ideas, conservative ideas, still found that, yeah, we would like to have free college, government paid college tuition. I mean, it would solve the problem of, for one, you have people that can't afford their student loans. So, another problem here, right? Low wages, right? Stagnant wages. That's what we're facing right now. In fact, wage growth is at 2.7% in the latest jobs report. Inflation was 2.8%. Inflation wipes out any job growth. So, that's the problem. What did the people think of the solution? Well, they had a $15 minimum wage, a living wage. It's something that Bernie Sanders and Ocasio-Cortez and progressives have been calling for, right? And it turns out that 35% said it would be an effective solution, and 30% say it would be a somewhat effective solution. So that's 65% of Americans saying that $15 minimum wage would be an effective solution to poverty, would be a solution to social barriers for people, and actually would be something that they would be in favor of. Now, nearly 7 in 10 respondents also said that increasing government assistance for childcare, right, universal pre-K, would be a very or somewhat effective policy response to social barriers. That's 70%. These are incredibly popular policies. These are in favor. These are things that progressives have been pushing, and you have a majority of the American people in favor of that. Over 2/3. Now, there's more. Now, the top concern of those polled is the growing cost of healthcare. That is the top concern. What are your concerns? What are you the most concerned with? High taxes, government overreach, regulation, things like that. Crime, immigration. No, they picked with 92% saying, no, we believe that the growing cost of healthcare is the biggest problem that we have right now. Now, here's the thing, right? The Koch brothers are in favor of destroying healthcare that we have now. ACA, for example, is health insurance reform, right? They've been cheering on Trump's efforts to dismantle that program, which has helped people. It hasn't gone far enough. You guys know my position on that. Now, his result, or the result of Trump attacking the ACA and dismantling it, has actually made health insurance far more expensive. And it was already bad enough. Now it's even worse. So now the question is, there's a problem with healthcare, okay? Healthcare, the growing costs. What kind of system would fix that? Well, they asked, Well, look, for one, of course, the conservatives always say, well, we want patient-centered healthcare. Well, yeah, all healthcare should be patient-centered. But what is that? What does that even mean? It's incredibly vague. And right now, what we have is corporate-centered healthcare. Healthcare that is centered on making corporate profits. So what they do to make that happen, of course, is they order unnecessary tests, and they make sure that people get charged high, like high premiums, high deductibles, and things like that, in order to be able to get these, medications, high prescription copays, and to have to pay a lot for these procedures. Corporate centered healthcare. That's what we have right now. Nobody likes that, right? So a lot of people, of course, are like, yeah, of course we should have patient-centered healthcare. But really, as I said before, that's an incredibly vague term that could mean almost anything. Now, for Republicans and libertarians, the Koch brothers, well, they think, well, patient-centered healthcare is basically we get the government completely out of it and let corporations do whatever they want and charge whatever they want. Well, nobody wants that. There's very few people that want that other than, of course, health insurance corporations and CEOs. Now, another option on that poll, however, was single payer with a government-run healthcare system. And in this poll, a combined 55% said that kind of system, a single-payer, government-run healthcare system, would be a very or somewhat effective policy response. That is over half of people polled. Even with all this misleading stuff, even with all this conservative framing, here you have people responding, we would like something that is government-sponsored, government-run healthcare. That's the socialism that they're so scared of. They're like, yes, we want that. We think that's a better system. Damn. And look, not only does it save money by cutting out for-profit insurance companies, but it also covers more, it's guaranteed, and frees up businesses from having to offer health insurance. So that actually helps small business. It makes sense. And a lot of people are like, yeah, of course it makes sense. Look, same for free college. Also makes sense. Look, when you're not weighed down by a gigantic mountain of student loan debt, turns out you can stimulate the economy by spending money. And people even create businesses. They start businesses. That's why it makes sense. And that's why 66% of Americans polled agree with it. Now, unfortunately, you might not have heard of these results. Now, as Nick Sergey and Zed Jelani write in the article, the poll was written up by Real Clear Politics, which of course spun these results favorable to the Koch network. So you hear the vague questions, and of course they say, oh, no, we're in favor of libertarian political arguments and conservative conservative arguments. No, actually on policy, it's fairly clear. When polled, a majority of Americans were found to be quite favorable towards a set of policies that the Koch network opposes. They say that where the Koch brothers see government tyranny, most Americans see common sense solutions to basic problems. Now, for example, on free college, right? AFP Wisconsin, that's Americans for Prosperity, which is a Koch-funded think tank, they called free college a terrible idea, while the state director of AFP Colorado called it, quote, pie in the sky. 66% of Americans want free college, according to their own poll. There's more. Minimum wage, right? $15 minimum wage. Now, in 1980, David Koch ran alongside Ed Clark as a libertarian. Their platform included a promise to abolish all minimum wage laws. No minimum wage whatsoever. And not only that, but Americans for Prosperity and its state affiliates have campaigned against increases to city, state, and federal minimum wage laws. Now, nonetheless, you have a majority of Americans saying, yes, $15 minimum wage, let's do it already. And on single payer, of course, we know complete non-starter, right? And that's why they keep trying to do these studies to try to say, oh, no, so expensive, how are we going to pay for it? Except facts, numbers don't lie. Even with the most conservative estimate of savings, and I don't mean politically, but when you look at the numbers, when you break down the possibility of savings, when you break down, like for example, administrative costs versus Medicare and private insurance companies, you find out that Medicare, just by the numbers, and all of this is recorded, all of this is easily accessible for public data. You find that Medicare has an incredibly low administrative overhead. It saves money because guess what? That money does not have to go to executives. It doesn't go to profit margins. It doesn't go to advertising. No, that money goes to your health care. Numbers don't lie. So even the Koch brothers ended up finding, turns out save $2 trillion. Now, they didn't write it that way. Even mainstream outlets who picked it up was like, it's going to be so expensive, $32 trillion, without talking about that we actually spend more than that right now. Insanity. Even with that framing, the majority of Americans still find these policies to be common sense. It's because they are. That just shows you these are mainstream ideas. They're smart, effective policy solutions to a lot of the problems America is facing, right? Now, the only problem, the reason that they come out against these ideas is not because it's not smart, not because it's going to cost more money. No, it hurts the donors. That's why you hear nothing but them screaming about socialism. It's Venezuela. You're going to be eating rats. Rationing of care. It's going to be terrible. No, look, they can't argue against these policies. They can't come up with a coherent argument because, look, there is no coherent argument. It works. And the American people have caught on. They know it works. We've got to do these policies. Medicare for all, free college, a living wage. That is the future, and the future is now. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.